The pay was $12 an hour for a broke college kid back in 1993. Spending the summer in a watchtower at Blackwood State Park sounded like an easy gig. Just me, my books, and some peas. God, I was an idiot. On my first date, the head ranger, this washed-up guy named Miller, who smelled like cheap cigarettes and stale coffee, didn't even look me in the eye. He just tossed a metal clipboard on the desk with the daily chores. But as he reached the door, he stopped. He pulled a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket and said, "Follow these if you want to make it to your first paycheck." The sheet was typewritten, the ink fading. They weren't fire safety regulations. The text read, 1. If the sun sets and you are still on trail 4, do not run. The sound of dry leaves alerts them. Just stop, close your eyes, and apologize out loud to the dark. 2. Sometimes the radio will click on, and you'll hear your own voice begging for help. Do not answer. I'm the only other person with this frequency. I actually laughed. I thought it was just some classic hazing for the new guy. I tossed the paper aside, grabbed my heavy flashlight, and went about my night. Around 2 a.m. the wind picked up, rattling the glass windows of the tower. The radio on the desk started to buzz. That loud, annoying static that gives you an instant headache. I reached out to turn it down, but I froze. A voice came through the speaker. It was my voice, but it sounded wrong. It was too fast, breathless, crying in pure panic. The radio said, "Miller, please, there's something trying to break the glass. Get me out of here." My heart hammered so hard I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. My palms went ice cold and sweaty, slipping against the plastic of the radio. I was completely alone in the cabin. There was no one else in the woods. And then I heard it. A soft tap. The sound of fingernails gently scratching against the glass windows right behind me. I didn't look. I just pressed the radio against my chest and prayed for the sun to come up. I was 22 back in 1994, working as a night watchman on a massive, isolated cattle ranch in rural Pennsylvania. The job was simple but exhausting. Drive an old pickup truck along the dirt roads, check the locks on the perimeter fences, and make sure no one was trying to rustle the livestock. My shift ran from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. If you've never been out in the deep countryside at night, you don't know true silence. When you turn off the truck's engine, the darkness just swallows you whole. The only sound is the hot metal of the engine ticking as it cools, and the crunch of your own boots crushing the dry grass. Around 3:15 a.m., I reached the north fence. It was the furthest point from the main house, bordering a dense pine forest. The wind was bitter, the kind that makes your nose burn. I stepped out of the truck with my heavy aluminum flashlight to check the chain on the gate. That's when the cattle started acting strange. They were restless, huffing loudly in the dark. I swept my light across the pasture. Dozens of eyes glinted back at me, but the animals weren't looking at me. Every single one of them was staring in the same direction, right at the edge of the woods. I figured it was a coyote or a bear. I aimed the beam at the tree line. Nothing. But then, the wind shifted and a foul stench blew out of the woods. A thick, sour smell of rotting meat mixed with wet fur. My stomach turned instantly. I decided to get back in the truck. When I slammed the heavy metal door, the noise cracked through the silence of the night, and the exact millisecond the echo faded, I heard it. From deep inside the trees, someone clapped twice. Clap, clap. 2 dry, deliberate claps. like a person trying to get your attention. Cold sweat broke out across my spine. The hair on my arm stood up so hard it actually hurt. I jammed the key into the ignition. The old engine sputtered. I tried again, panicking, flooring the gas pedal, and the engine finally roared to life. Before throwing it into drive, I made the mistake of looking in my side mirror. The glow from the flashlight I'd left on the passenger seat caught the barbed wire fence right behind the truck. Something was crouching there. It wasn't a bear. It was a human silhouette, sickeningly thin, with arms so long they touched the dirt. It was pulling the barbed wire apart with its bare hands, trying to squeeze through. And the worst part, its head was tilted completely sideways, staring right at me through my back window. I floored it, fishtailing on the dirt road. When I got back to the main house, I locked myself inside with the rancher's shotgun, staring at the door until the sun came up. The next morning, we went back out there. The gate was locked, but the heavy barbed wire strands were twisted apart, covered in tufts of a thick grey fur that no local vet could ever identify.